action. Welcome to The Ancient Way. I'm James.
I'm Marlia.
For the first time ever, we have a quadruple Easter extravaganza. We have 4 people today.
And a lot of Easter eggs.
A lot of Easter eggs. Kat's back.
Woo!
For the 3rd time.
We should put a little intro of like, guess who's back?
Yeah, every time.
Shady's back.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
And then for the first time ever in Ancient Way history, we have Tyler.
Woo!
Welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. Welcome.
Welcome.
I welcome myself.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it's been since day one, Tyler. I'm just kidding.
So we really don't have anything specific to talk. We haven't talked about what we're going to talk about, but I bet it's probably just going to take off.
Well, I tried. Nobody wants to. Nobody's having it, but it's fine.
We didn't roundtable because I feel like we do better when we just kind of go
off the cuff.
And you already had a whole basket full of things to talk about that we can.
Just Easter eggs.
Yep. Well,
a basket full of Easter eggs.
Yeah.
Oh man.
No one knows where this is going to go. Not even us.
Except Passover's in a month. I just felt like I need to say that right now. You know, it's at the end of April.
Do you know how many days exactly?
No. I had to look it up today.
That would be
because I forgot.
Yeah.
I didn't think Easter was actually going to be in March. It's a weird flex.
Is it always in March?
No.
It's usually in April.
Interesting.
Yeah. Why?
Probably has something to do with the eclipse or leap year or both.
Wow.
No.
I'm so confused.
Wait,
I know that
for
Thanksgiving,
real?
I just found out Thanksgiving is always on a Thursday. It's not on the same day.
No.
My birthday is always on the 9th, so.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Actually.
But apparently Easter can just go wherever it wants to.
It is.
It is, yeah.
Like a jumping rabbit.
Yeah.
Just like a jumping
Thanksgiving
rabbit.
is always on a Thursday.
It's the mascot.
And Easter is always on a Sunday.
Okay. Yeah.
But the date changes.
A whole month, though?
Yes.
Who just?
I mean, it's the day before
this?
April. I forget how they decide why that happens.
Wow.
But I feel like it probably has something to do with the leap year and the different calendars.
Yeah.
No. Well, yes, the different calendars. It was when we moved away, like we did the Gregorian calendar, and then we did a whole, it was the goddess Esther. We started celebrating her little festival. Then they just moved the resurrection to when her festival is.
Oh, yeah.
So
I had a dream
about Esther.
About her.
Really?
No, I mean, a long time ago. We can go into that.
Yeah, why don't you?
One thing, though, I was talking to somebody yesterday about these holidays, these holy days.
Here you go. Are you ready?
Yep.
The Council of Nicaea. Is it? Nicaea. There we go. In 325, decreed that Easter would be observed on the first Sunday following the first full moon after the spring equinox.
Wow, that's complicated. That's the same council that decided the 66 books of the Bible.
It was, yeah. But they used the different calculation based on the Julian calendar rather than the Gregorian calendar.
Okay. Gregorian?
Yeah. The Julian calendar is 13 days ahead of the Gregorian calendar. So they took days from us, but that's
a
fine.
lot. Well, every day only happens once a year. Every day's a holy day.
Wow.
Except for
James won't even celebrate his birthday.
I will. I'm okay with it. Not like against it.
Can you tell me about your dream about Esther?
Yeah. Well, I say Esther. It was an Easter dream. Anyways, it was really weird, but it was a rabbit. This is really weird. This rabbit was extremely seductive in this dream. And it was weird, and I had to
Should I tell you about what Esther represents?
Well, I know
She's the goddess of fertility.
Fertility, yeah, all that stuff.
For all of our listeners that don't know.
Yeah. Well, rabbits,
are
extremely active reproductive animals. So rabbits, eggs, all that stuff.
Okay, so she was extremely seductive.
That's all.
Oh.
Easter bunny.
Dream. Nothing else happened?
No.
I like it.
No.
It's fascinating.
A long time ago. But I've heard other people that have had similar dreams and experiences with the rabbit. So there's something to it.
Well,
this would be a Dr. Judd episode.
That would be a fun
on Easter.
one.
I can't believe we didn't think about that. He'd know all that stuff.
Yeah, he would. Brilliant man.
Yeah.
I see Easter bunnies sometimes, or just rabbits, but I think I've been seeing them here lately, just holding a bunch of rabbits in my arms and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
It's a multiplied peace. Their ears just making the peace sign and everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Peter talks about in one of his epistles, that may the peace of God be multiplied to you. So,
yeah.
Anyway, so
I like
that's
that.
Cool. I do too. Well, there's always like the good side and the bad side of like an animal. It's like a lion. Like
I've had a rabbit bit me. So
really?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I grew up having rabbits. So
yeah. I stuck my hand in Chuck E. Cheese's mouth one time.
Did you really?
Yeah, and his overbite like crushed my hand. I'm not kidding. The animatronic one. I don't know why I stuck it in there, and his like teeth went. Yeah.
Wow.
So
I don't think I've ever dreamed about a rabbit.
Yeah.
I've dreamed about a lot of things, but I don't think a rabbit's ever been in there. That's weird. What you learning about over there, Marlia?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. Okay, you had a whole bunch of things to talk about.
Yeah. Now you're silent.
And now you're on
you
your
just
phone.
stopped.
I was just so pumped earlier.
Yeah.
I'm still pumped for you.
Put your flame out. Sorry.
No, I stumbled upon this. So Tyler and I got into some weird conversation yesterday. It was very bizarre. But I was telling him, I called him because of a random story that happened to me that I thought was super dope. But I won't share that here. But where the Lord literally sent me like on a mission, right? And I called Tyler and I was like, bro, we've got to collect a Black Ops team. I'm pretty sure I called you too. I called you and told you about it too.
Yeah,
I was like, we need to have a Black Ops team. Just rolling out. Anyways, well then Tyler and I just got into, what would you say? Like,
just the ridiculousness of being free to talk about the Lord and just believe in whatever, and the way it really takes off when you're surrounded with other people like that. It just creates an atmosphere of just ridiculous, miraculous fun.
Yeah.
yeah, we're
spontaneous ideas, and
the sky's the freaking limit.
Yeah. And then bringing it back to the disciples and stuff, and sort of almost viewing them as a prototype who the Lord has picked these guys, but their belief in everything was just sort of unlimited, and he unlocked them and everything. And I was even thinking about it this morning and yesterday of, Jesus saying it's better for me to go so that I can send you the helpers, but I'll never leave you, and I think of now, Jesus being here in our midst with, our group of people, our collective, and we're, our own little tribe of disciples or whatever, but also just birthing the same weight of what they birthed, in their lives into this.
Well, almost like carrying it on too. It's like that was a starting point. Like they like, hey, this is what you do. This is how we live. This is what it looks like.
Yeah. So Tyler sent me this text after we talked for a long time, which was flippin' dope. Like Tyler said this about Bexley because she's just like, she was the observer about all this. So like, well, I guess I'll tell the random story. I guess it's all right.
You gonna go down a rabbit trail?
Yeah, I probably will. I just don't want it to be exposing for anybody.
Yeah.
That's all. But I'd gotten a text, and literally when I'd gotten this text the other day, like a vision literally flashed before my eyes. I wasn't searching for it. I wasn't looking for it. I just saw it instantly. I was like, hey, can I share something with you? Kind of released it. And I was like, okay, just kind of carried on. Well, I was actually, when they had texted me, I was actually like getting my stuff ready because I was going to go meditate with the Lord. And, but as soon as I sat down to sit with the Lord, I heard him say, I'll meet you at the park at 2:00. And I saw exactly instantly where I should be, like where I was sitting, whatever. And I was like, oh, that was weird. Then I was like, okay, Lord, like I almost brushed it off. Yeah. I kind of actually forgot about it until like 1:30. I was talking to Bexley and she wanted to go have a picnic at the park. And I was like, okay.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
So we went to go pick up Chick-fil-A because it was God's food. So naturally, you had to. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
If I'm going to meet with God, I might as well.
Right. And it wasn't on a Sunday.
Right. So I could do it. But anyways, I roll out and it's like 1:52. And I was like, I'm not going to make it to the park by 2:00 because it was like wild traffic.
Yeah.
And I told the Lord, I was like, yo, if we're meeting here, stop time. I swear time stopped. I cannot like prove it, but I know it. I don't know if that makes sense. But it's normally from that place, I hit every single light. It was like the slowest traffic, and I roll in it like it's almost right at 2:00. It's like 1:58. So I was turning right into this park.
That's wild.
And I was like, all right, I guess what are we doing here? So I was like, well, maybe I'm here to give somebody a word. And I was like, well, maybe I'll just walk with Bexley, like whatever. I wasn't hunting, because you can kind of get into that mode, like I'm hunting to give something. I was never that.
Yeah.
And it was just like, all right, I guess I'm just going to enjoy the day. And I was kind of like bebopping around, and I was like, I saw 3 butterflies, and I was like, maybe that's it. Send me out here to see butterflies, like just the most whatever.
Yeah.
Well, finally it was time. I needed to go meet somebody, and so I was like, all right, well, I guess let's roll. As we were walking out, I run into that person that had texted me that I haven't seen in months. I'm saying like this person hasn't even been on my radar or anything.
Yeah.
And then the day that they text me, I then see them that afternoon, and they were like, yo, I just want to say thank you for texting me. Like, that was very significant, and kind of give me small reasons why. And I was like, you know what? I feel like do you mind if I pray over you? And so we like laid hands, and Bexley laid hands on this person. And it was so flipping profound to me to watch her, because she literally goes, and Jesus, and then starts like speaking in tongues. I'm not kidding you.
That's cool.
Like, it's like, anyways, but you could actually feel the Lord and the love over it. And I actually felt like I got strategic information for her for what she was about to step into. And anyway, so I like got lit. I was like, oh, I just freaking came over here for a mission. I just did a quick mission, and now I'm going back to do my work. And anyway, so it stirred me up so much, because I was like, that stuff just lights me up.
Yeah. Like
getting sent out by the Lord, doing that stuff, releasing light, and then to have my daughter observe it.
And to participate.
Participate. Well, she was in the car when I called Tyler, and me and Tyler are getting into some weird stuff, just to be honest, like far out there that most people are like, that's offensive to my brain.
Yeah.
Like, I won't even go there, but just thinking about the limitless possibilities of what does it look like to walk with God.
And
it was just all this stuff. And Tyler goes, you know what's so cool? He was like, I think about Bexley, and Bexley's just saturated in this conversation. She's like, this reality is surrounding her.
Yeah.
And she's just like a bystander here in it. And I thought about that. I was like, afterwards, I told Zach, I was like, how flippin' cool it is for our kids. Not just mine, but for the families that I'm connected with.
Yeah.
Because we're all so wholehearted. Like, we're all in, and this is our life, and they get to see it, and they actually have a different reality. And I didn't ever feel like, man, Daniel used this word, and it's been like bugging me, not in a bad way, in like a good way, but he was like the grooming.
Yeah.
Like, you groom kids.
Dude, that one made so many things hit differently than they've ever hit before. When he used that word in that context, I was like,
yeah, like religious grooming, like to make people feel like God is bipolar, or that he's a mean God. Like, that is grooming in a way.
Yeah.
And I thought about, like, I instantly was like, man, am I doing that to Bexley? Like, am I trying to groom her in like these spirit things and like whatever? And I felt like the Lord said, no, you are teaching and imprinting my heart in her. And I was like, man, what an honor we get to have to do that to the younger generations. Like, we're walking in understanding of things. And this isn't an arrogant statement, I don't think, but a level of understanding that the disciples foundationally had, that they got to impart to their kids. And it's like, dude, we're doing the same thing.
Picking up that baton.
We really are.
But in the trajectory of it, like, you raise your kids in that. what about their kids?
Totally.
Like it becomes more and more clean and pure as it goes along.
You could almost say it multiplies.
Right. Like, yeah.
Peace multiplies.
Well,
and grows. I like that too.
Yeah. Mentioned Black Ops earlier. Tyler's here, and I've had several dreams over the past several years of Tyler and I specifically going on Black Ops missions.
Like, because you forgot to ask me in the ethers.
I know. Well, I'm getting to that.
Because we were floating around.
I'm getting to that.
You just went out without me.
Character selection screen came on. I was first.
Tyler was open. He was open, available. I've had dreams where we've been in the desert in like tactical gear and been on missions and stuff together. And Tyler, we got to tell him about the attempt that we did. Speaking of really weird stuff, going on spirit missions, that's offensive to your brain. Do you want to tell this story and like how we somewhat kind of we're in a general same area?
Well, one night at Don Juan's is how some stories start. Just sort of talking about the limitless things and just having ideas and pitching them out in front of each other. And I was just like, well, we were just talking about what if you could meet each other in dreams and go on missions, or just to come back and say the next day, hey, I had that dream. Did you have it? She was like, oh yeah, I remember it. We were both there. Just something similar to that. And so we were jokingly but open-heartedly like, oh well, Lord, and
yeah, totally open for it.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, let's just go home, and then tonight. I mean, I just kind of was like, I'm just going to pray and say like, hey, why don't you put me and Tyler on the same mission or whatever? And I just fell asleep. But that's what I did, anyways. I don't know about you.
I mean, I forget, but I mean, I still.
We just kind of agreed on it,
yeah,
over chips and hot sauce. It's
right.
Like, yeah, let's try that.
Yeah, and I mean, I had a dream that night that the church, the Hoff, we had a lake house, and it's funny, like looking back now that I know what his dream was. I don't even. I forgot who had which dream. Almost honestly, like. Because I feel them both the same as if I had both dreams, but
so, and that's interesting too.
Yeah, but my dream was that there was Hoff had a lake house, then
I had a dream we were at a lake house, but like it was me and another Hoff person building a dam on the lake.
Yeah,
so it's like we were in the same like vicinity, and it's, I mean, maybe it's like, oh, that's cool. What's the point, or what did you do?
Yeah,
I really don't know.
It's
but
called step one.
Step one, it's training
to the
ground.
Same location.
Step one, ground. Dude, you got to be in the same place to go somewhere.
Yeah,
I mean it.
You got to get in the same car together. You know what I mean?
That's right. That's true.
But it opened up something. I think just Laura saying, "Hey, yeah," like he just sort of like stamped it, like, "Yep, it's possible."
And there, maybe it would be cool to get to the point where, like, the next day, it's like, "Hey, did you finish that dam?" And it's like, yeah, man, we got it. And it's like where we're literally, we know what happened. But also, I mean, what if you could go into the spirit just completely consciously and change trajectories and grids and like frequencies and stuff like that? Like that radio tower dream where we changed it. And if we come back and it's like, all right, we did something.
I think, and there's a lot of people that I've like stumbled upon and had conversations. I can feel when that's happening. I know that sounds weird, but like in intercession, especially in that place for me of intercession, like when we do intercession on Thursday nights, because there's a collection of us, I can feel when the frequencies are shifting. I can feel like if things are moving in the city. I know that sounds bizarre too, but like I can feel like if there's like a pivoting happening or there's something opening up or there's like, but I feel like that's what we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Over regions. And it's not that we're special or anything else. It's just like we have the ability wherever you're planted to do that in that region. To unlock it.
It's kind of like when you, like, what it makes me think of is when people become really in tune with their body and they, like, people who don't think about it or anything all the time, they don't know what's going on, but somebody who's like trained their mind to pay attention to their body can tell like much more sensitively if a food affects them, or if they're tired, or if they need a pep in their step or whatever. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that. It's like a tuning. So it's not special to any person. Everybody has access to it.
Yeah.
But there's like a honing or tuning to it where you.
Yeah. And that, even in that regard, I've had dreams and stuff, and I've asked the Lord the other day, like, how do you cash in on those dreams? Like, how do you activate them? And he's kind of like, you value it, you talk about it, you weigh it. And I think it's the same with that. Like, to tune those things in is to, like, pay attention to them.
Yeah.
And then you'll start seeing way more things connect.
Yeah.
Like I had this dream the other night where Zach, on his phone, it was 11/11 on November 11th, and he was like screenshotting it, and he was literally in not the same location as me, but telling me, hey, screenshot, it's 11/11 on November 11th, and I like screenshotted it, and then I looked up, and there's like a new calendar that's like almost like a second dimension. This is weird, but it was like we floated up, and then we saw in Unity that it was 11/11 at 11/11.
Yeah,
and I was like, whoa, like this is dimensional. Like you would think I was on acid the way I was talking. I wasn't. But I was just like, I can't believe it. This thing is so dimensional. Well, as I was waking up, I felt like the Lord said, go look at your dream from November 11th. So I went to go look at my dream from November 11th. And this was like a gnarly dream, to be honest. Like, that was not one of those like, oh, that was delightful. But I was being drug up on a stage for judgment in this dream. And, but these beings, these two dudes, who had already died, but they were giving, their judgment was let there be light. Not kidding. They were dragging me. They were like, come on, like stand in front of the judge. And I was like, okay. I know he's going to be like Hitler. And so, yeah, I'm skinny. I'm attractive. I think I'll pass. Like, I'm like trying to figure out, because I was like, I don't have blonde hair. I don't have blue eyes. Like, I could see all of my disqualifications, but then I was like looking at my qualifications, and I heard a voice say, it's judgment time. And, but these two guys they were like big, like yoked black dudes. They're like dragging me up there, not in an aggressive way, just like, come on, like don't be. Well, I was like skittish. I was like, I had that anxiety kind of come over me, which I know that was about the Lord hitting my own perception of how I thought he was going to judge me about certain things. But anyways, it was literally, the guys were like, no, dude, like it will always be let there be light. And he was like, you're going to live.
Yeah.
Because people were being divided. There were those that were going to die, and then there was those that were going to live. But he kept telling me, he was like, don't, like, you're going to live.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. But I knew, so there's just, the reason I'm telling all of this is because I was just thinking earlier, I was like, I wonder if some people have a hard time putting these things together.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd had that dream about 11/11. Right, and all these dimensional things. So I go back into that dream, and I realized the Lord was pointing to that dream about today. It's like, oh, I'm actually entering into that judgment time, where I'm going to see these things manifest in my life of let there be light.
That's good.
So I'm going to see things multiply here.
Yeah,
like because I was willing to deal with that thought that I had, that I thought he was going to be judgmental towards me. And that was like the process that he's been walking me out over the last couple of months in a very specific way about judgment that I'd had on myself, that now I feel like when I had that dream, it was like, oh no, it's going to be the application of like, let there be light. So I'm going to see things manifest for me. I'm going to see the truth of him coming forth. But I think that's how like simple it is to see these things as they move. And you know, even just like y'all's deal about having the same dream. It's like, y'all take that as tokens, because then 6 months comes along, you're going to be like, dude, did you remember when we literally met up and then we did XYZ? And then, you know, it's like, I think things will always build. But if you're diligent to just deal with what he's putting in front of you, you'll see it kind of escalate.
Yeah, there's something to that. And being consistent with stuff too, like praying things until it's here. It's like heaven on earth. Like, look at it, focus on it until it's actually established in here.
Mm-hmm.
Not just like, maybe sometimes it takes a one-time prayer or whatever, but really holding on to it until it's actually established.
Yeah. So speaking of, what'd you find?
Oh no, I was looking for something, but I couldn't find it. I'll come back to it. I just will
Google it.
Google. This is a Google.
Started doing here.
It's all good.
So weird thing about this morning for me, I woke up. I'd already told everybody else here, but I'll tell our listeners. This morning it was so cool. I literally woke up to the smell of bread, like fresh baked bread with cinnamon, and I was like sniffing hard. I woke myself up because I was smelling it so deep. I was like, I really think I'm a drug addict the way I talk and do these weird things. But yeah, it was just this rich and intense smell. But I felt it was so strong. I felt like, oh, it's fresh communion. There's a freshness coming, not just for me, but for other people, of like the fresh communion of connecting with God. Mm-hmm. Like there will be a freshness for people that they hadn't felt before. Mm-hmm. And almost like that reviving kind of passionate thing. Tyler and I talked about that, like just having like this crazy passion and excitement of like for God.
Yeah.
Like you can have that every single day.
Zeal. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's been happening for me. You know what started it?
What?
The knocking in between.
Oh yeah, you should tell people about that. That's cool.
I've had a lot of crazy dreams in my life, and I've also like seen cool things when I'm giving words to people, but I have not had very many like supernatural experiences. But over the last month, I've maybe like 5 or 6 times, I've woken up usually between like 3 and 5 a.m. to knocking, but it's not like in my dream. It's like I'm half awake and half asleep, and I swear that there's knocking on the door. A couple of times I've jumped out of bed and run to see who's knocking, and there's nobody there, and it's dark outside. And I'm always like, yes, Lord.
Yeah. Is it like loud and swift, just like boom, boom, boom?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's like,
yeah,
like it's different times.
Okay.
But it's so real.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting because I've gone since it started, which I haven't had one since I've had this realization, but since it started, I've kind of felt pulled back into that old way of thinking of condemnation, because I go to the scripture where it says, behold, I stand at the door and knock.
Yeah.
And that's in Revelation 3. And he's talking to the church of Laodicea about being lukewarm. And I'm like, am I lukewarm? What's wrong with me? Like, that's what my mind wanted to go back into that programming, that grooming way of thinking.
Yeah.
And I actually texted DT about it the other day after it had happened a bunch of times. I was like, so, has that ever happened to you? He's like, oh yeah, the Lord's just inviting me in to commune with him. He wants to teach me something. And I'm like, well, that's not where my brain went.
Yeah.
But I really do. I did know it was an invitation though, to meet with the Lord. And so I feel like because that's been happening, and it's probably one of the more supernatural things that has happened to me.
Yeah.
Besides stuff that I see in my dreams and when I give words, that, has made me more excited.
That's cool.
That's good.
There is something about his voice, though. Are y'all ready for this? I'm going to take a hard pivot. Y'all should jump in at any point.
Well, I was going to say I had a knock on my door a couple of nights ago too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
James always be getting knocks.
I've been messing with demons in my dreams, like attacking them and stuff.
Oh gosh.
And I thought that I thought it was them knocking on my door, that they were retaliating because I've been messing with them, and it kind of scared me a little bit. But it was a loud knock on the door, and I like ran up to the door in my dream, and I said, "Who is it?" Like yelled it, and I woke myself up screaming,
Wow.
"Who is it?" Woke Kelsey up, and she said, "Are you okay?" I'm like, or no, she said, "You scared me." I'm like, "I scared me too." But she said, "You said, who is it?" And I was like, "Yeah, somebody was knocking on our door." But I think it was him. He always knocks on it like loud when it's just like, it's kind of scary. And it's like this urgency, but
you know what that made me think of though, when you said you thought it was the demons coming to your door, was this thought just went through my head. It's like, they don't come to our door, they're defending their doors against us.
Yeah. Gates of hell cannot withstand. Yeah.
But do y'all see the train, kind of the same similar thought patterns from what I just said to what you just said to what he just said? It's like there's sometimes this thought that they're coming after us.
Yeah.
There's this thought of like the judgment is going to be against us, or this thing's coming towards us, which is, I just thought it was funny. I just noticed that. I was like, oh, in all three of ours, I can see how the Lord's like flipping the script for us.
That's very much what I'm in the middle of. Is
I have something.
Yes.
Well, before I was really, I guess before I had my true like transformation, like there's a point of time you can pray a prayer or whatever, but there's some point to where when you're transformed, you start to live differently. Anyway, I wasn't at that point yet, but I was in the military, and I always believed in God, but I was probably around 21, living in my dorm room, and I've always told the Lord that, hey, I want to have a relationship with you, but I want to have fun, so come and find me in my 20s.
Yeah.
And that was my heart's prayer, and he honored it, actually. But before I was encountering him, I was encountering demons and stuff, and specifically my dorm room. But one night I was just chilling there, and it goes boom, 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 like just banging on my door while I think I was awake, or I just about fell asleep, and I was like boom, 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 like super aggressive. And I just ran up, and where my door was located, nobody could get to. But I had all these different manifestations in my room. Stuff would turn on by itself. Doors would move on their own accord. But then one day I walked into my room, and sitting there in the threshold was a 3-dimensional black shadow sitting at my feet. I just saw it, and I was like, and like I lost my breath.
Ooh.
I don't know, it's just so scared.
Yeah.
But now it's different. Now it's like I've been encountering them in the night, and through sleep paralysis and things like that. And now when I feel it, I'm like, oh, and I'll lean into the sleep paralysis. Used to, it would just kind of, I would be afraid to fall back asleep because I'm afraid of going back into a nightmare or something like that. But now when I wake up in the in-between, I'll lean into the sleep paralysis. I don't really know how to describe it, but I'm just like, oh, I'm not afraid of you.
That's cool.
And I'll lean into it, and then I'll see the demon in the in-between, and I'll start to fight. I usually just trash talk him or whatever, but that doesn't really do anything until you start to invite the Lord into it.
Yeah.
But but just been seeing them there. The other one the other day, was it last night or the night before? It was the night before last, but I felt the paralysis, pushed myself into it, and then I woke up and I was in my bed, but I was in the in-between. So it's like you're awake, but you're not really awake, but you're lucid, but you're not awake. But I could see a shadow person standing there to the left of my bed, and I was just like, and it was stronger. I had a few weeks before that, I had like a Dementor from Harry Potter show up. I woke up in the in-between, and it was like sitting there above my face, the cloak floating and things. But anyway,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Why are so many things coming to you?
I don't know. I think that, you think that first, like, oh, what am I doing to attract stuff like this? Or, so that's been my thoughts. Like, oh, I must be doing something to attract stuff. But then it's just like, after the past few encounters and things, like, I haven't done anything to attract these things, but I think that the Lord is just showing me, well, the cool thing, good point. The cool thing, when I first learned to sort of come into their zone, I told Marlia about this, but I came out of my body one night. I woke up in the in-between. I was floating, and I found a witch in the right corner of my room, floating around. And then another night I saw a pack of hellhounds, and it looked like undead dogs in my room. But I see these things almost like in real time, because you're in this trance like state, and a vampire. So those are the things I saw. But to get to your point, the other night when I was seeing, that little Dementor thing sort of floating above me, I just start to talk trash to it, right? I just you're going to hell. It's but it's it doesn't, you can condemn them and do all those things, but it's not going to move them.
Yeah.
And then, so I woke up and I can still feel it. It's just like bone chilling. You can still feel its presence in the room. And I'm just like, okay, and then I start to like, all right, you're the angel of the Lord. Like I'm done with these things for the night. You can, show them the door, and you can start to slowly feel it lift. But I think the Lord was just showing me like his authority and his power. And that's just in the night when you're experiencing things. But to think about it during the day when you're not
seeing them,
and you're not feeling paralysis, you're not feeling those things, of just how powerful he is, and to just continue to, even if to like it, almost like when you're in that spot, when you're asleep and stuff, like you're feeling all these things real time. You can feel the deliverance and the Lord going and doing things. But regardless of what you feel during the day, he's still doing those things, and he's doing them for other people. Yeah. I think that was sort of like the point.
Okay. So. I was asking because I know people who talk a lot about, like, they rebuke things a lot, and they talk a lot about fighting these demons and spiritual things and whatnot. And I have not found anywhere that says, and maybe I'm wrong and I just haven't read anything. Like I feel like the Lord does that for us, and we just embody him and carry his authority with us. But I was just kind of curious because I'm like, what's the point? Is he like, here, deal with this guy? Or is it just like to show you that he's with you and you have the authority, and just kind of giving you insight into what's going on and what's around?
Yeah. I mean, I thought about that. I thought, well, like I want to be so at one with him to where I'm just like, hey, out of here. Yeah. Not necessarily on my own authority, but
because he's in you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, but I was talking trash, but it's interesting because, Michael, Michael, when he's like rebuking Lucifer, he's just, and he says something like, so that I didn't fall into condemnation. I just said, the Lord rebuke you, Satan or Lucifer or whatever. But he brings up condemnation. He's like, I'm not going to fall into condemnation here. I'm just going to say, hey, the Lord rebuke you, and just leave it at that. And so that's something that I've picked up. It's like, okay, it's not,
Well, it makes me think, it makes me think that's kind of the carrier that they bring in. Yeah. Like they actually try to entice condemnation.
Yes.
It's like that's actually they're the instigators.
Which burns you out when you're doing that.
It does. Yeah. It makes me think, I had a dream the other night about these little gangsters that were doing they were doing cons on people, and they had lined up on this fence, but they couldn't go past the fence, and they were doing all these cons, and they were attracting all of these people to it. And people were actually just they were actually losing their way in it. They were falling for this con.
Like scamming them and stuff?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, scamming them of all these things. Dang. And when you said that, though, it made me think of that. I was like, oh, yeah, because those people, that was kind of the trap that they were getting in, is like the script was being flipped. They were conning them, but then they were making them try and feel condemnation. And I was like, that kind of feels like the trick of all of them. If I can get you to feel shame, if I can make you feel condemnation, then you're not actually going to take your authority in this.
Yeah,
goes
interesting.
Back to that grooming thing too.
Yeah, but even I just had this thought too of from the angle that Mike Parson talks a lot about, which I think is brilliant, is the restoration of all things. What if they're bringing in condemnation, but your job is to actually reverse them when you see those entities, and you're actually not just supposed to get the Lord to take them out, but actually flip them for the good side.
Isn't that what Jesus did in the desert with everything that Satan brought up against him?
He flipped it.
Yeah.
This is what that made me think of.
Interesting.
Yeah, what if we're supposed to flip those guys, so the ones that are supposed to give condemnation, they're actually supposed to be the ones that give life?
It's one of those weird, potentially offensive things, but man, what if that's actually it? And this kind of goes back to the whole condemning the demons. You see and you hear all these stories of people it took me 10 hours to deliver this person, but we finally got it, and we were bleeding and sweating, and it's damn, 10 hours? Some of these stories, I'm like, that's exhausting to me to think about it. What if the deliverance, or how quick it happens, or how obedient they are to the Lord in you or through you is like it's how aligned in truth you are. And so many people are on these like warped versions of Christianity or truth, like the whole hell thing, the sin consciousness thing. It's like, yeah, you can cast a demon out, but how much of your person is yielded to sin consciousness but the purity, like Jesus is like, hey, get out, and they just do it, you know? So what if it's about your alignment, how aligned you are to the actual truth?
How much of your person has actually
taken
on the light?
But I had a dream where I encountered a bunch of scammers too, a bunch of scamming demons. They put up this reality show and they like tricked people into it to win prize money. And the trick is only one person is going to win this.
That was literally what they were doing, dude.
Yeah.
Did you guys have this dream on the same
scammers.
night? Were you in the same game show?
This was 3 weeks ago.
No,
but here's what I did in the dream with it. I went to save them, and this is part of I pissed them off, and they retaliated. But then, like the Lord rewound time, and I prevented the whole thing from happening. I caught the scammers before they could even build their empire. I don't understand. I was just kind of like, hey, here's 2 ways we can redeem the situation.
Listen, God's been... I'm like just dipping my toes into like quantum stuff and just that he's outside of time, right? Yeah. And I just feel like that redemption of all things and restoration of all things means for all time. And that is just blowing my mind. Yeah. That there is a reload, rewind button kind of a thing. Like,
yeah. For everything.
For everything.
That one feels like peeing in the swimming pool. Yeah. Or jumping off a cliff. That one's scary. That's butterflies. It's like, am I allowed to think of it? Am I allowed to even consider this?
Yeah.
But what if that's actually it?
But dude, it makes so much more sense in alignment with who God is than any of that condemnation stuff.
Or even like the timeline, like there's a time for punishment and there's a time for...
There's a season for...
Yeah.
All things.
Yeah, I just lastly real quick, I thought, this verse, blessed is he who's believed but not seen. You know what I mean? To just be blessed to have unlimited belief potential. And it's not that person who believes won't see, but blessed is the person who has believed and has not seen. And it says, I think that, well, not to get, just too far out there, but just going out on dreams and stuff like that, like, don't recall the whole thing, but we're still out there doing stuff. While you're asleep, you're traveling, doing things, but some things you might not have seen, but you still believe and you're blessed because of it.
Well, it's like some people carry trauma and they don't remember what happened, but it steers so much of their life. So what if there's the contrast side of that? Like in the dreams, what if we do something that carries so much more weight than we realize in the conscious?
What if it's even when we're awake and we're operating in 2 planes, since we're seated at the right hand of the Father, and we're actually operating day and night in the spirit realm.
100%.
And that's the journey that we're on, is to bring that back into the conscious mind at any given moment. You can be out on a mission, but you're like, nope, I'm right here. Like, like you can actually be in these 2 places at one time.
Yeah.
I used to, I just daydream sometimes about like heaven, the things that I, want to do when I'm fully conscious there. But I always told myself the first thing I want to do is I want to multiply myself so that I can go experience like hundreds of thousands of different things at once, but share like one consciousness and process it all.
Yeah.
But, to think that that's already...
What if that's already happening?
Yeah. Well, that's what we talked about in the last episode, was like God, so many people view him as like this exterior deity, like in the sky, and that he's not part of us, or like even him being our Father, like we're his essence. We're the very essence of who he is. Yeah. As this spirit deity God, so like he can do that. He totally does that all the time.
Right.
So I bet we can too. Like, why not? Which is kind of exciting.
What if we just uncap ourselves?
Uncap ourselves, yeah. Another thing, this makes me want to like specifically pray for this, like in our lives, is like, I just want to like show us the spiritual weight of our life in conscious being awake, just navigating our day. Like, what are the stakes, or how heavy or how big of an impact is it to do just the tiniest little thing for somebody, or,
Yeah.
What does that look like on the spiritual side of things? Like, did we just build a castle, or did we just?
Did we build the castle every day?
Did we? Yeah.
Did we? Like.
I mean, there was a mansion in that dream the other night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A full blown.
Yeah.
Few, maybe 1,000-yard white mansion, and I felt like it represented us. You know,
it's cool.
What if we're building people on this side and the other side?
Yeah.
Because we don't stop growing as soon as we phase over.
Both, yeah.
Like, what if the small things that we're doing today are actually helping build other people on the other side?
Yeah.
So it's not just about this one dimension.
Mm-hmm.
It's the multi-dimensionals.
Yeah. Even us judging angels, like we're uniquely the only creation that is like almost like the masters of both worlds.
Yeah.
Really, we're the heirs to both of them.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So why not? Yeah.
Yeah, why wouldn't we?
Right.
Why wouldn't we be restoring angels on the other side?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we be engaging on that side and this side with people and angels?
Yeah.
Since we're already doing it both here.
It's like that scripture. Do you not know that you will judge angels?
Yeah.
It's like when? Like 10,000 years from now, or like
now
in 30 minutes? You know?
30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if the judgment is actually let there be light, and the judgment is actually reversing anything that was even fallen, even on the angelic?
It's like your dream going into that court to be judged. What if we strung one of those scammers in here?
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, your true purpose is...
Well, you did, because you reversed the time on him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You actually were able to reverse something that he would never enter into.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
That's good.
Let there be, interesting.
What if that's actually the let there be light with even some of the demonic entities?
Yeah.
That they are like so delusional about stuff that they don't even realize.
Well,
yeah.
What did you say the darkness is earlier? Were you you were talking about the terror by night.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, obviously, opposite of light is darkness, and darkness can't can't exist where there's light. Mm-hmm. So, like, what does it mean to get rid of darkness?
That's a good question. I've always wondered that
because
too.
it's not the beings. If what you're saying is true, it's not the beings.
That's the real question, yeah.
What if it's the mind? Like, what if it's
I think it is.
Like
I think
decision,
it is.
Yeah.
Or lies. Or like
yeah. So when I am teaching, the kids, did any of you ever watch that? Probably not. The show, maybe you. Once Upon a Time. It was,
Yeah.
Okay. So you know the curse that falls over all the land, and it makes everybody forget who they are.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I explain what happened in the garden, kind of a thing. Like, it's it's like this curse over people's minds. It's like, and the darkness is just not being able to see yourself and others and God rightly.
Yep.
Yeah, I had a dream when I was in South Africa that me and the guy I was staying with, we would travel in dreams together, and he would bring me to places he would frequent in dreams and stuff, and we would. I remember he was taking me down like this tunnel once, and like there was different people that he knew, and he gave me like some holy water, and he was like, hey, when I show you, when I say witchcraft, like you douse them. I was like, okay, and like there was one needed a douse, another one needed a douse, and the third person, he's like, witchcraft, and it was like his friend, and I doused her, But anyway, so I would travel with him different places in my dreams. I mean, it was often like he would like trance, like I would fall asleep, and then he would like walk into my room, like, are you ready? And we would just go off and do stuff.
Wow.
But one night we were like walking through some mountains and stuff, and we came upon like a ritual site the morning after, and there was all these bowls that had been drinking out of it. It was pretty, and it was light outside and everything, and there was like little cliffside, and it was beautiful. But all of a sudden we started to I felt the most demonic presence I've ever felt. And the more and more you felt it, the more and more you forgot who you were. Almost like just completely just, boom, I have no idea who I am, how I got here. But that's the more you felt it. And I felt the Lord was letting me to experience that. Like, the actual presence of the demonic and stuff makes you forget who you are. Yeah. Why it's so important for it to be displaced over people's minds, the mind. So,
And if you think about it, that's kind of what fear does. Yeah. Fear is like an instant make you forget who you are and what your authority is and that's what you carry.
Yeah.
I like that.
It's true.
Everybody feel good? I'm itching to go into this thing. Are y'all ready for this?
Yes.
Is that your notes for today?
I made a list. I really want y'all.
Is that math?
Don't judge me.
Okay.
I felt judgment.
I thought
I was kidding.
There's no judgment. It's just
James.
Surprise.
I was just looking, yeah.
No. Are you ready?
Yeah.
I got inspired. Speaking of, go all the way back to what we were talking about with the 12 disciples. I've had this theory. God, I hope I can articulate this and y'all track with me.
You can.
5 years ago, okay? I randomly had this thought. What if every single name that the disciples, like all the ones that Jesus called, there was symbolism in their name. Like, what if it wasn't about the 12 being 12 men and yes, representing like the 12 tribes of Israel, but what if it's more than that? Like
their original name or their new names?
Both.
Okay, I'm ready.
Both.
Yeah.
Y'all are going to freaking trip.
I'm excited now.
Are you ready? So the first 4 that he called, right? 2 pairs of brothers. Okay. Which I think is brilliant if you think of like Jacob and Esau.
Cain and Abel.
Cain
There's
and Abel.
A lot of brothers.
Yeah, but this time they're in pairs. It's not individuals. Like you go out 2 by 2.
Yeah.
Okay. So I wrote this. I was like, here's my theory. What if all of the 12 disciples' names actually just embody an aspect of walking in the kingdom? What if that's what this is? The reason that they were all set up of this new kingdom that he's establishing.
Yeah. Wow.
What if they're just embodying this? Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Dun, 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 dun,
I've
dun.
been ready.
Simon actually means, his name means to hear or to listen with intelligence. So the first person that turns into Peter, that turns into a rock, something that's stable, his name actually means to hear.
Wow.
Which is what the covenant restored.
Yeah.
It restored hearing.
Yeah.
The second one is Andrew. His name actually means a man. So he restored the hearing of man.
Wow.
To me, I thought this was brilliant. These are the only 2 names. The first brother, both of those names are just primary words. So they're like root words. You can't go further back into them. They're like the starting place, if you will. This is the starting place.
Yeah.
Then you have James. Fun fact, same as Jacob. So James is actually named after his brother.
I was here first.
James, I'm just kidding. For our listeners, James's brother's name is Jacob, actually. But it means supplanter, right? But the origin actually means heel holder, which actually means to replace. It's about replacement, right? And then John, the 4th one, is Jehovah is a gracious giver. It's like, it's the replacement and his gracious gift being like, this is the exchange.
Yeah.
These 2 guys are the son of Zebedee, and Zebedee actually means my gift. So it's literally all about the gift that he's releasing upon us. Yeah. And these are the 4 top dudes. If you think about Peter, James, and John, if you just put their names as if they were sentences, is literally to hear with intelligence. I am great. I'm a gracious giver that will replace. It's like the great exchange.
Yeah.
So then I was like, wow, that's got to be, for me, it just hit me of like, oh, he's been spelling this thing out for us.
Yeah.
Then the second 8 of these guys, I'll tell the last one in a little bit. Well, time out. Rewind. Zach had this experience probably like 2 weeks ago where he was outside just connecting to the Lord and he started hearing all these horses and they were like neighing out loud. And he was like, what's the deal with all these horses? So he's been on this horse kick, right? He's been like looking into them and we've been talking about them. And because I had this blue horse come to me and then I'd had this experience with this blue horse and then Tyler freaking got a Pegasus in a experience that I had. And anyways, but I'd been sitting on it. Okay, like what's the deal with the horses? And I realized, oh, like the Lord is a horse rider. He comes back. Like, why did he pick a horse?
Oh, that's good. Caballo.
Yeah, but why? Why did he come? Why? What was the deal with the horse, right? Philip, what his name, the disciple, actually means lover of horses.
Whoa. Really?
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's about us. Like, even the angelic that we're partnering with, like, horses are like the full authority. This is like how an authority, this is how a king comes.
Yeah.
But he's in love with us. Like, it's the partnership. Anyways.
Yeah, that was my word of the year, was about those war horses going to the capitals and stuff like that, which is
I forgot about that.
Early episode this year. You can go find that. But
yeah,
everybody was on horses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But he's the lover of horses.
Yeah. Wow.
Bartholomew is son of Talmi, or Tolmai. But I started to trace this word because it's like of origin. Yeah. Like, so this is the root, right? That word, like Talmi or whatever, actually means a long, narrow trench made in the ground by plowing, especially for planting seeds or for irrigation.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like making space for the plumb line.
Yeah.
Which is Jesus himself.
Yeah.
It actually can also mean to accumulate, which could also be known as to gather together or to acquire an increasing number or quantity.
Yeah.
And it was like,
multiplication.
The multiplication.
Wow.
Bringing in.
Which name was that?
Bartholomew. Thomas. Are y'all ready for this? This hit me the other day too. I was just thinking about Thomas and his life. And they joke and like his nickname be
Doubting Thomas.
Well, but it means twin too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I literally thought, I was like, what if they named him twin because he looked like the Lord?
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Like, what if that was the case?
Could be it. Wow. That's funny.
Are you ready, though? Twin, that Hebrew word, actually means exact likeness, but the root means to be complete, to be doubled, or to be joined.
Wow.
And the thing with Thomas, and why they even pointed out that he was doubting, is because it's that scripture in James, a man that looks in a mirror and forgets who he is.
Yeah.
Thomas forgot what he looked like, and he was doubting about it. But the Lord went and showed him, like, hey, remember, this is what you look like. You look like me.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Anyways.
Wow.
These names got me, dude. I'm sorry. I just like, I couldn't believe that there's like so much in this. Matthew means gift of Jehovah.
Yeah.
Again, James, son of Alphaeus. So the other James, again, heel holder. But the son of Alphaeus actually means, Alphaeus means in exchange. Or changing, in exchange for.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thaddeus, who is also named Jude, his name means large-hearted and courageous. And then Simon, the Canaanite, actually means hearing. Canaanite means of great zealousness.
Yeah.
To hear with zealousness.
Yeah.
I love that.
And then even Judas Iscariot. Judas means he shall be praised and celebrated. But Iscariot, I went and looked. If you deep dive these words, that word is actually a city referenced in Amos 2:2. But if you deep dive into it, it actually means to light upon, to encounter, to meet, or to befall.
Yeah.
And it was like he had those two choices. Either he was going to meet and encounter, or he was going to let it fall.
Wow.
It's like, and Judas did. He let that thing fall.
Yeah.
But like, that's the, anyways. All of those lit me the flip up because I was like, that feels like the freaking gospel.
Yeah.
In those 12. Like they embodied so much of his heart in just their name.
He would so do that too. It's like he covers every base. There's probably stuff that we don't even have a clue about that he's painted for us.
Yeah.
It's like Babel, the Tower of Babel, the tongues being separate, and then in the book of Acts, like the upper room coming back together. Like he literally has redeemed every single thing and painted this beautiful picture for us. It's like the ultimate, like the Bible and the cross is like this ultimate public display of like affection. Like
I just thought it was brilliant. The two dudes.
Yeah.
He got two Simons, which is like the doubling of hearing.
Yeah.
It's like the double portion, if you will. And then two Jameses, which is actually about being the replacement.
Yeah.
Like it's the doubling of everything. The whole new covenant is about the doubling of everything.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was always hung up on why like he never put women in because I was like, for dudes, y'all don't think twice about it. But us women, and I've heard every excuse under the book, right? So he doesn't put them in the Bible because it was not during that time, or, women weren't, even though Jesus included it because of the rioters, they had like a male viewpoint. Or have y'all heard all this? Mm-hmm. Just me? And I was never satisfied with those. I was like, that just feels cheap, to be honest. But then that's when I felt like I heard the Lord say, no, it's because they embodied something. Their names did. And anyway, so I just deep dove into that. And I was like, oh, yeah, like it's actually supposed to be set up in this manner. Anyways, it was never not about the women.
Yeah, right.
Because the women were the ones that went all the way through the cross.
Yeah.
There's only one dude that went through the cross. It was all the women. So the moral of the story is that women are better than men. But no, I'm kidding. Okay. That was just a joke.
We are thankful for y'all, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm
what
kidding.
Denomination is this?
Yeah, Hezekiah. Religion of Hezekiah.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. But because y'all got that somber look on your face, so I had to crack one joke. But
I'm tracking. That's really cool.
Isn't that wild?
It is wild.
That's amazing.
Maybe I was just me.
It's really cool.
My pastor in Hawaii was the first one to kind of point out things like that to me, like name meanings. And I think, you probably already know this, all the names that are listed in Matthew 1 in the lineage of Jesus all kind of tell a story about him coming.
No way.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's where
every seventh name and something when you start from like the beginning. Something like that.
Yeah.
Wow. I had no idea.
Cool story.
Oh, really?
Yeah. No, legit. I didn't know.
He did this study where he went through Leviticus and Matthew at the same time. And they the redemption in Matthew of the things in Leviticus that were like the laws and stuff that were set up. There's like redemption of it, and it shows Jesus fulfilling those things. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you read those in tandem.
Well, Michael Heiser, he did a thing about that one time, and he was like, oh, by the way, that boring section that just goes through the lineage, he's like, that's actually super valuable and important and fun. And it's like even Jesus coming through the lineage of like prostitutes and like everything. But it's like he came through all that and redeemed all that stuff.
Yeah.
Which I think is so flippin' dope.
Yeah.
Why have I never thought about the actual physical lineage of Jesus and it being redeemed and us doing, I don't know. I've never put those two things together. I'm like, yeah, we're supposed to redeem our whole lineage, forwards and backwards, yada, yada. But I've never thought about Jesus' lineage. Well, I just mean like his personal one and all the people in it and how he redeemed them.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was an out loud thought.
Do you know what I think is cool about talking about transcending dimensions and time and space is like if you look at all the stories, he did it in the midst of their timeline too, though. Like Rahab.
Yeah.
There was protection of her.
Yeah.
Like she was set apart. It's like some people do say it's because of her faith. Or was it?
Yeah, interesting.
The flip of that because she saw.
It talks about a lot of people seeing.
Yeah. He was
Speaking
all over
of
the Old
interdimensional
Testament.
and whatnot, have I told you about my trip to the world between the woods?
No.
You know that. Have you read the Narnia books?
Yes.
Okay. So
I haven't read. I'm sorry. I've seen the movies. I've not read the books.
Oh, well, then you won't know about this.
Okay.
So in The Magician's Nephew, which is like earliest in the chronology, in The Magician's Nephew, there's this place. So you know how they go through the wardrobe to get to Narnia, right? So Narnia and our world are both one of many worlds. And there's this place that you can go to. It's called the Wood Between the Worlds. And it's like these woods with like the picture that I've seen is like trees scattered throughout. And there's just pools on the ground, all over the ground. And each pool represents a different world. And I was meditating with the Lord once, and he took me there and showed me that like each world kind of represents a different, like he was showing me different people's, like each person's world, because each world represented a person's world in what he was showing me. And each world is formed by like your perception.
Yeah.
Right. And your experiences and all those things. But he like reached down and touched my pool and healed it. And there was like this golden film that went over the top of it, and then it started like seeping into the pools around me, which like belonged to my family. Yeah, because like the families are all, it's all these pools, but it's also this giant family tree because all of them are connected, right? Yeah. And so he was like healing the different pools, but it was like, it felt very interdimensional.
That's cool.
In what I was, I felt like he was telling me like, this is kind of, I don't know. It was really cool. That's a cool book to listen to or read or something.
Wow. It was right after that, I think, that you and I were talking about, we were talking about pain, right, Kat? We were talking about those triggers and how, like when a trigger comes up, or like, you know, when people get triggered, they'll like revert to whatever age or whatever you get triggered in.
Yep.
But Kat brought up, she goes, what if that trigger, like the gift...
Yeah.
Would you explain that? Because you did an excellent job of it.
You were talking about something to do with triggers, and I saw a picture of it, and I saw like the pain that we get with the trigger. I was like, what if it's, how did I explain it? It's like, what if those triggers are actually portals back in time?
Yeah.
So that we can heal those moment and redeem those moments.
Yeah,
like those triggers, I like saw this portal open.
Yeah.
When the trigger happened, that like, because it's back to a moment, right? Or back to a thought or a root, right? And it's like when we get triggered or have those pains that come up, I think we were probably talking about something with my life and my childhood, because I've been dealing with all sorts of stuff with my family. And so, yeah, I just saw it as this portal for healing and for redemption.
Yeah. I think that's 1,000% what that is. I know, like, the forgiveness stuff that I've walked through, that's what happened on my lunch break. It was like time travel central. It's like I was in the moment. The Lord took me to the moment where I'm looking my teacher in the face as she's saying, you suck at this, you know, as a child. And I'm like, well, I forgive you. It's like, that's what you do in those moments. And it just like unlocks it, shatters that lock, and boosts you right back to where you are, where you're supposed to be.
I'm really excited you brought up forgiveness, because I felt like God told me to talk about forgiveness, but I was like, I don't know how we're going to get to forgiveness with all this stuff.
Here we go.
Give me like a long thing. I just wanted to share something that happened. So I hadn't had dreams. I've been in like fight or flight for the last 2.5 years or so, right? Just constant vigilance, high alert all the time. Consciously and subconsciously. And so I haven't really had dreams. But I had this broken friendship from several years ago now, and like maybe 5 years ago now. Haven't spoken, aren't friends anymore. And it was like a deep wound kind of a thing. And we hadn't spoken, but I would write down in my notes in my phone all the things I wanted to say so that I wouldn't send them to this person. And I felt, so back in January, it was the 1 year anniversary of my mom passing away. And I wrote a letter to my mom, and it brought a lot of healing for me. And I went into it with like, I want to believe these things about my mom and feel this way towards my mom. And by the end of the letter, I was like, oh, I already do. So I was like, I'm going to write a letter to my friend. Before doing that, I went to go back and look at my notes. And it wasn't necessarily that they were wrong, but they were definitely with the wrong heart. They were from hurt and anger and frustration and things like that. So I was like, I want to write like a forgiveness and a loving letter, right? So I wrote this letter out, and then I ended up sending it to my friend. And that night I started dreaming again. That night I I've tried to release forgiveness before, because it's something that comes up in my mind regularly, but I hadn't been able to until I physically wrote this letter. Yeah. And I wasn't even planning to send it, but I ended up sending it. But it was that night that I started dreaming again.
Wow.
When I hadn't dreamt in.
I think that's the thing. Like, people don't realize how deep of a key that is. Like, forgiveness is everything.
It is. Well, because that's everything for...
Well, there's something about really visiting, I guess, whatever the injury or whatever the situation, like really sitting in it and fully going into it. Because It's like the Lord. Everybody says, well, they're rejecting God. It's like, I don't think you can fully reject him unless you fully know him.
Yeah.
It's like a situation like that. I don't know that you can fully forgive unless you fully are in it.
Yeah. Until you know him in that space.
Mm-hmm.
You have to like know the Lord's heart about forgiveness.
Yeah, right.
To get into that. Because I think that there is that kind of that trap where people will try and do forgiveness, but it's from anger.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, I friggin' forgive them. God. But they'll never let them off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they'll never actually pretend. They'll never actually live as though it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that's literally what forgiveness is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you don't even...
Yeah.
It's like a full letting go. Like, hey, I actually bless you. I want the absolute best for you.
Well, you can't redeem or restore things when you're holding grudges and when you're holding people in debt to you.
Yeah.
And that is the heart of the Lord, as we've been talking about this whole time, is to redeem and restore everything. And so I think it's like I don't know if it's the one block, but it seems like a pretty big block in that restoration of all things is to hold on to unforgiveness for yourself and for...
Feels like a cornerstone, if I'm going to be honest.
It does feel like a cornerstone.
Yeah,
That's a good...
Like Jesus.
Yeah.
What if we forgave the terrors at night?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because really it's like, I find myself having to forgive the Lord for things, not because he's ever done anything, but because an offense has started in my heart from a misunderstanding.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, thinking back to the demonic stuff in the night, when you like, oh, this is the only time I get to have like righteous anger. Like, yeah, but it isn't righteous anger. I don't think so. Obviously I don't. Well, anyway, but to just, what if next time when I lean into it in the in between, just be like, hey, like I forgive you. I just release instant, because I've had this thing here lately. It's just like when, you're driving or, some offense rises up or like someone says something and it's just like, I've had this thing just kind of come over me. Let the Lord be the judge between us.
Yeah.
So
and move
good.
off, just like water off a duck's back.
Yep.
Let the Lord be the judge between us. Not saying it in a condemning way or mean way, but just like not even gonna visit that. It's almost like Michael when he was saying, "The Lord rebuke you, Satan." You know what I mean? Like, not even going to acknowledge this in any other way besides the mindset of the Lord.
Yeah.
So I'll try that
good.
next time instead of saying bad words to them.
Yeah.
Hashtag growth, whatever.
Yeah. This guy that looked just like you flipped me off the other day in traffic.
Can you pull like a Mufasa to these things and be like, remember who you are?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Probably.
Well, it's kind of like the forgiveness thing is like it's a cornerstone. It's like a chunk of like what faith actually is, though. And this is like a trail I've been on, especially with a lot of people I know and stuff, is like everybody's in these really difficult situations that they've never experienced before. I'm one of them. And it's like, it's like, I don't know anybody that has authority in this, or like, there's nobody here that I can talk to, but it's like the one thing that you can do is choose to like, hold your faith. Doesn't feel like anything's happening. Doesn't look like it. May never end, but it's like the only thing we have is like I choose to trust you, and that's it. And it's difficult, but it's the rawest form of faith you can have. But it's kind of like the forgiveness. Like you can't swim in the Atlantic Ocean unless you're like there on the beach. Mm-hmm. You got to be in the middle of something to redeem it or to apply light to it. But,
that's kind of what we were talking about yesterday a little bit of like, first you hope for things, but hope turns into faith. And, then Paul talks about, it's like, oh, these things we've hoped for. And then I read those things and I'm like, yeah, I don't have hope anymore. I have full blown faith. Like there's no hope here. Then faith turns into like full blown belief. And then we're thinking about, Abraham with towards the end of his life or whatever, just how he was so, like, hey, just, hey, you're going to go on this assignment or whatever, just believe him. Like, yeah, but the Lord's going to come through. So it's like, he was so solidified, like he knew the Lord, and like there was like no real faith even left there. It was all just sort of belief.
Yeah.
Just sort of graduating to each different point.
I literally had that. Yeah. I was just pitching this out to Tyler yesterday because I was like, I'm kind of like sitting in this thing that I feel like, what if we grow beyond faith?
Yep.
Like, what if faith is actually just the framework of the house?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Just like he was saying, like, what if hope is just the foundation of the house, or just like it's just a component that once it's there, it's there.
Yeah.
As you're building and as you're growing these things, like you'll walk through hope, like where you're in a season of like, you're just going to learn this aspect of hope, and then you're going to learn this aspect of faith. But then what if you go beyond that? And then you're into belief, which is what I was, when I was talking on Wednesday, like that's what I feel like I'm like the belief thing becoming solidified in me is like the Abraham. Like Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness. It's just good. Like the belief is just, to me, like that's the totality of things.
Yes.
Like it's so solidified. Everything within you is just like, this is the way.
Yep.
This is what we're doing.
That's it.
I'm actually not even going to be discouraged. I won't let my heart be discouraged.
Yep.
Because he said don't do it, so I'm not doing it.
Right.
Well, I think then it just becomes part of you. When it's something you believe, I think there's one definition of belief that's like by your life, which means you just live your life as though it's true. You don't even have to think about it anymore. And I was thinking about that when you were talking, Tyler, because when I think back to how I've changed my mind about things and changed my beliefs about things, it starts with becoming aware of it, which I think is like the hope part of it. And then it gets to where I start trying to do something about it or rewire my brain. And that's kind of the faith part of like, I don't feel it, I don't see it, but I'm doing it because this is, I have faith. And then it becomes part of me and becomes second nature and just something that I do without having to think about it anymore. That's a lot of my rewiring that's actually something I wrote down about the knocking and that whole idea of condemnation. I feel like lately I'm kind of having to rewire my brain around some of that programming. And I feel like with the condemnation thing, I'm just in the beginning of recognizing it. Because I wrote in my notes of like, I've noticed a pattern now that my first thought is usually, what have I done wrong? Or is it a warning that something bad's about to happen? Or like, what's wrong? Because that's where my mind immediately goes. And so I'm just kind of in the beginning parts of like noticing it and trying to
I've thought about that too. So just real quick, it's like I'll think about, I'm an insurance adjuster, so I have claims, and so like I'm off work but I'm still working claims and having conversations with homeowners in my head. But it's just like, sometimes you can process things, you need to process things, but a lot of times for me, I think it's just the voice of condemnation to me, and it's real subtle how it can get in. It can start off innocent or whatever, and then all of a sudden, you're just trying to justify things, you know what I mean, but I've really combated that in my way of just like the Lord is saying like, hey, like I've got all of your claims settled, like they're even claims you haven't worked yet, like I've got it all taken care of, so just trust me. And that's just one aspect in my life or whatever, but
I've been seeing it like a dance, like it's like a relationship or a communication. It's like the faith is like, okay, I'm giving you this space, like I yield, whatever, I trust you. I don't even know what the outcome is, but whatever it is, you do it. Then he does it, and then it's like, oh, then it's belief.
Yeah.
That when he rewards your faith, then it's like it's established. It's like, okay, he did that, and I know it. On to the next step.
Do you want to know the first time believed is in Scripture is when it says Abraham believed God, and it was counted to him as righteousness? That's the first time that word ever shows up.
Huh.
Do you know what that Hebrew freaking word is? Oh, man.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
So be it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It actually means to properly build up or support.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
That's cool.
Yeah, to be firm or to be permanent.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's belief.
Yeah, it's belief. It's truth.
It's permanent. I think that is, that's what I feel like we are all moving into, is this permanence.
Yeah.
Of not even like questioning or wrestling or being like, okay, like, Lord, I'm going to have faith that you're going to show up in this space. And like, I know you've done it before, but I'm a little worried, but like, that whole thing about him telling me like there's provision in the fear. It's almost like
you should talk about that.
Oh yeah, I mean, I yeah, that was cool, but yeah, it's just like there it is. Like that's the belief is like this is, as you've said, it will be.
Yeah.
Like this thing is permanent. This thing's already done.
Yeah.
By your word. You know. And I realized that's a lot of the rebukes. Like I was sitting in Judges for a whole minute about Gideon. The only reason that there was ever judgment about them is because they didn't listen to the word of the Lord.
Yeah.
They forsook the word of the Lord.
Right.
It's like, what if that's actually just the game that's going on within every single one of us is like applying the word of the Lord. Hear the word of the Lord.
Yeah.
Listen with intelligence.
Yeah. It's good.
But yeah, so real quick, I'll go into that. As like Kat said that I had that word. Y'all were both there, Tyler and James, so it won't be nearly as fun for you two. But
I think it will be good for listeners, though.
Yeah.
Because it hit me.
Yeah. So I was praying, and I felt so strong the Lord told me to read Judges 6 and 7, and it's about the story of Gideon. And I actually felt him say that the story of Gideon is the key to unlocking fear for people. So if you really want to unlock fear out of your life, go study Gideon. Go study the nature of God throughout the whole deal. And anyways, but when what the Lord told me at group was with the heart of a servant, all fear is accounted for there is provision in the fear. And I realized, like, when you just have a yielded heart, because if you don't have a yielded heart, you're just going to wrestle, right? And not that wrestling's not bad. I just think there's a time and a place for it, you know. But if you can yield into the word of the Lord, it's like even if you're afraid about something, your fear is going to be accounted for. He's going to give you provision. Because what happened was with Gideon didn't even say, "Hey, I'm afraid." The Lord addressed his fear. The Lord was like, hey, but if you're afraid, take your servant with you down to see the Midianites. And it just struck me so hard. It's like, if you're just yielded to him, he's going to show you. Yeah. And if you're afraid about it, even in going forward, he'll give you your right-handed person, or he'll give you whatever you're needing in attacking that thing. And then Tyler brought up, I thought was brilliant, about Abraham. Will you tell that? Because I thought that was a brilliant add-on about Abraham's servant.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can give that one to Daniel, I guess. I mean, I was just thinking back to it, you know, and Abraham is sending, what's his name, Eliezer or whoever?
Yeah, his servant.
Anyways, yeah, sending him off on his way to go find a daughter for Isaac.
A wife.
Yeah, a wife, a daughter. My bad.
It's not Molech, dude. It's not Molech.
I'm just kidding. But anyway, the servant was just sort of like, you know, a little hesitant because, you know, like Daniel made a good point. Like, you know, Abraham knew the Lord. He had a good relationship with him and everything. But his servant was just sort of like, you know, believing in the Lord through proxy of Abraham or whatever. So this was sort of like a test for him. But you know, he's like, but what if it doesn't work out? And Abraham's like, you know, it's going to work out. But if it doesn't work out, you know, you're free to go. Like, you know, you have no obligation or whatever. So it was just like he still went ahead and did it. He had fear, but he also had like this little provision to get out of it. You know what I mean? Even though he didn't need it, you know?
Yeah.
Or it wasn't needed. So
it's all accounted for. It's like everything in your life is accounted for. Every component that you were afraid that he's not noticing, it's already planned, accounted for.
But the fact that he left him a way out of it, it's like, hey, you're not tied to this. Like, you don't have to do this if you don't want to. That alone makes me want to do it more. It's like, oh, he's pretty cool. I want to do that.
Yeah, I guess I can do that.
I don't have to.
All right.
He's pretty, yeah.
But yeah, so that was really good what you shared, you know, and I feel like that's something that I need to hear often. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, cause like a lot of times, like I used to think that, you know, oh, I'm not full-heartedly surrendered because I still struggle with this or I still struggle with that. But it was just a lie. But I believed it for a long time because then it's just like, well, all this is conditional on your strength, but really,
how righteous can you be?
Yeah, exactly. But really, it's just the repentant heart that hears the voice of the Lord. Like, that's the person who's all in. This is the person who has repentance, the willingness to change, to hear, to continue to walk. And I think that a lot of it is just, like you said, like everything is already accounted for. Some things are harder than others, but you just continue to walk through it, and
I think the harder something is, the greater the reward is, though.
Yeah.
It's like, if you keep your eyes, just like Jesus, right? He thought very little of the shame with the cross, because the reward of what he was going after, the joy that was set before him, he endured it all.
Yep.
I think that's the example of it, is like, even if you're approaching something or you're looking down the barrel of something that's scary or you're afraid of it, it's like, no, dude, like, I will see the joy of the Lord on the other side of this.
Yep.
Like, because that's
I'm a conduit of redemption in this situation.
Yeah, it's going to work out for me.
Yep.
It's going to work out for everybody, actually.
Yep.
It's just how he does.
Where's the verse? Well, I was going to say two things, but what you were just saying made me think of the verse that I can't remember where it's at, that says, "Consider it all joy when you encounter."
James 1.
Yeah.
I thought it was James 1.
1:2.
Oh, 1:2.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's why I missed it. I was looking at 1:1. Consider it all joy, my brethren, when you encounter various trials. But he just basically goes into like, it's going to produce some pretty dang good fruit.
It's maturity.
But when you were saying it's all accounted for, that made me think of the verse that is the motto of "Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added to you." And that's right after all of this conversation about what, like, anxiety and fear and stuff going on. And I think when it's not all listed individually of every possible scenario and all the things that could go wrong, it's easy to make up in our heads like, but what about this? But is he good here? But is he good in this situation?
Yeah.
But it really is every single situation.
Yep.
He is good.
Yeah. And I think even being able to ask the Lord, like, can I see your goodness in this? Like, let me see the goodness in this whole situation, and then giving him space to actually showcase it. Because even in the present moment, there's goodness to be had. Even if, like, you're going somewhere, there's something there. That was like, the Lord told me, there was just a burning in my heart. I asked the Lord, I was like, will you show me the angels assigned to me in this season? And I ended up having a dream. I don't know. Have I shared this on here? I don't know. Whatever. So I ended up having this dream about these two angels, or these two being women, that were like right next to my business, and I walk into their garage and they're like all lit up, and it's like a laundry room, and I like was taking trinkets from them, which is just funny to me. I like felt like I was home, so I was like taking some of their stuff, but
That's pretty cool.
Well, the lady was like, what are you doing? And I was like, well, I got an hour to kill before I have to get Zach and Bexley, which I knew it was like an hour before I was going to wake up. It's very strange, but I was like, I got an hour before I got to go get them. Like, can I have some? They were like, yeah. Anyways, but they had name tags up on the, by the it was right above the washer. And on the right side, I couldn't read the one on the left, but on the right, the lady's name was Naney. And I was like, that's so freaking weird. Like, she kind of looked butch. I was like, like, my carnal mind, I'm literally judging the crap out of them, to be honest. I was just like, y'all are like hood rats over here. Like, this is weird. The other lady had like this massive blue sapphire ring on. And I just remember thinking, like, you're too rich for this. And you look like a hood rat. Like, anyways, I'm very judgmental, clearly. But,
no, you're not.
Anyways, I end up waking up. I literally 1 hour, just in case anybody was wondering, woke up 1 hour right before Zach and Bexley got up. And I went and looked up the name, and Naney actually means God has highly favored you. And I was like, oh, that's super cool. Well, then that afternoon, I got a phone call about a doctor overseas that's actually flying in directly to come see me and see what I do at my work. And I was like, you've got to be freaking kidding me. Like, who am I? I am like this ridiculous whatever child. But
you're world-renowned ridiculous.
World-renowned child, yeah.
But what I thought was beautiful is the same thing that y'all did. Like, you asked the Lord with complete and utter belief, like, hey, will you send me on a mission together? And my whole heart was like, Lord, show me who's assigned to me today, like in this season.
That's so cool.
And it's like, I think that whatever you're actually needing in this season, actually ask the Lord, like, what's being given to me right now? What are you actually imparting to me? What are you handing me? And then see what comes. Watch what dreams you have. Look at the interactions that happen. Look at the friends that may end up showing up on your plate. Like, you know, like, you may end up having these brilliant connections that happen and open up. I digress.
It's good.
Yeah.
I get really hyped, so skirt.
Well, it's cool. Like, you follow, like, your heart of, like, I want, like, you wanting to know the angels that are around you. Like, you followed your heart in that and you delighted in him. It's like, I want you consulted him on it. It's like whenever you feel that pull or something, it's like, can you show me what this is? Or and he does. Especially if your heart's in it and you ask him, he totally shows you.
Yeah,
it's really sweet.
Like, I don't know, like 7-8 years ago, I was struggling with this different stuff, and I just told the Lord, I was like, hey, like, if I just, don't do this for like a week, can I see an angel? And like 7 days, like, that was my deal. I just made a deal with the Lord, whether he accepted it or not. I was going for it.
It's gonna happen.
It's gonna happen. And I had like back then, like, I was, living in my parents' house, and I had turned my closet into like a little prayer closet. But I mean, it was just pitch black in there, and I would just sit in there and seek. Like, it was straight up, it was cool. But it was a different time. And so 7 days went by, and I was like, okay. And I was just like sitting in my closet, literally just sitting there, like, awake, like, okay, like an angel's gonna show up. And like, never, I've seen maybe some before, but anyway, so I went to bed, and I was just like, laid down. I was like, if I was wrong to ask this, like, I'm really sorry. I just was just, I don't know. And so I went to bed, and then I woke up in the middle of the night, and I was fully awake. I wasn't in between. I wasn't in a trance. I was full blown awake. And I was laying down, and I looked, and there was in my room, there was a golden star. Like, I could see it like it was a movie. There was a golden star sitting in my room about 10 foot away from me. And it was, right across. It was level. My head was down, laying sideways, but was level with me here on the ground. And then all of a sudden, the golden star started to like get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it turned into like a 12-inch by 12-inch screen, and the golden star turned into God's throne. And then God was sitting on the throne, and he was all white, right? Like, so there's this bright white light of a man sitting on this golden throne. The sun, it looked like the sun was shining behind the Lord, like out towards me. So like, it was just like almost like a cone of just bright, pretty light. He was just projecting into my, I don't know if my room was like reflecting it or whatever behind me, but so God was sitting on his throne. He was about like 8 inches tall in my vision, but off to the left of the throne, there was this being who was like tall and slender, who was, standing to the left of God, and he had this golden armor. It was made up of hundreds of pieces of different armor, but it was all glistening. Like, you ever see the sun shining through the leaves and stuff, and it's glistening? That's how it looked like. But he had a white face, like God on the throne. And I'm just like sitting here, just like looking at this, and then I have a thought that just goes through my head, like, oh, it has its back turned towards me, because I couldn't see its face. Then all of a sudden, in the open vision, it took a step towards me, and I go, oh, it is its face. And I was like geeking out, like, real hard. And then the Holy Spirit said, this is the angel of the Lord. And then I woke up in a dream when I was praying, and I was looking in a church, I was praying, and I was looking up at the ceiling, but then I woke up for real, and I realized I was like 2 a.m. But real interesting about that is I told that to Marlia, and we can think that there's a separation of like, oh, God's out there, but really the vision was like, no, he's like right here, head level with me. And anyway, that was just like really impactful. So now it's like,
He's face to face.
Yeah, he's face to face. You're seated, and you hear that thing like you're seated in heavenly places. I would always think that. Then the other day, it said, no, you're seated in heaven. Or it didn't say no, but it said, you're seated in heaven.
Yeah.
So, and then, just throughout that time, I was like, Lord, like, I want to hear an angel sing, and I had a dream where I heard him sing. I was walking with a guy who wanted to see them. He was able to see them. I was able to hear them. That's cool. So, yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I was feeling that when you actually were talking. I felt to encourage people, like, the way that you hear, the way that you experience is actually geared for your gifting. And I felt like everybody's gift is really, really important. You really dream. Like, you get all of these experiences, like these revelatory experiences, Tyler, and I think it's brilliant. And I used to ask the Lord, I was like, will you give me all of these? Like, I want just as many, blah, blah, blah. But I felt like the Lord said, do you really want the strength of someone else? And I was like, no, I don't. Like, I want what I'm geared for. And when that thing broke off of me, my vision opened up. I can literally, like, I'll see things in front of me now that I've never seen. Like, my dreams are not nearly as, I have some pretty wild dreams, but I have a lot of my stuff visionary. Like, I'll have like an open trance or whatever. Like, but I realize, like, I don't want to take that away. Like, I would much rather have the way that he talks to me now than the way that he speaks with somebody else, because it makes me come much more alive.
Yeah.
And so I just felt to encourage other people, like, if you felt that, almost that pull of like, oh, well, you don't get stuff like that. Like, that's actually the voice of condemnation. Don't take that bait. But if it is your heart's desire, you will get as your heart desires.
Yeah, your true heart.
Yeah, your true heart.
I felt that yesterday. For people that ever hear us or anybody else talking about it, I felt that specific thing of like, well, I don't have that.
Yeah.
I like Todd White says it too. He's like, don't want what I have, want what he has for you.
Yeah,
totally.
That's it.
But he says it really well, but yeah.
I remember there's something about even earnestly desire that you'll prophesy, that thing. But like, I remember being at work in the cold warehouse place, sitting there in the cold warehouse, and it's just silent. And I'm like, I'm craving, like, show me something. And I remember sitting there with nothing. But it was just like I desired it.
It's like letting the desire cultivate.
Yeah, let it cultivate. But I remember, like, I was in that boat of like, how are all these people seeing all this stuff? And I can't see anything. And at one time it was like giving birth to a child or something. I finally got the first like little vision thing. And I valued it so much. And I gave it to somebody, and it was real. But it was the relationship of it. But it can happen rapidly too. But like, if you don't have anything, like, it doesn't mean anything. This is for every single person.
Yeah.
If you want it, it is yours.
Yeah. That's good.
But I think the sky's the limit too.
It is. Yeah.
Like,
I think so too.
I feel like that's how it happened for me. Like, it was really slow with lots of doubt and lots of just showing up, even though I had no idea what I was doing or whatever. But I felt like, as it went on, and the more that it was accurate and the more that it was I let myself go into it not the way that I was being told or shown, or just not that anybody was telling me to do it a certain way, but rather than trying to do it like anybody else, I was just kind of letting my mind open up and listen to the Lord. And that's when it started getting like really clear. That's so
I feel
like that happens more and more now.
What I instantly thought, well, of course your path was like that, because you're teaching children. And they go through that. They go through that period where it feels like there's a lot of that doubt, that self-doubt, that feeling like it's slow, feeling like they're not really getting anything. Like, no wonder. Like, you're leading a whole group of a young nation into this. Like,
so that even the way that my experience was, and as frustrating as it was, now I have
you have the authority
when I'm teaching them.
Yeah.
And you can totally connect to them in it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, like, I live that. I get it. And you're okay. You'll see it.
It's all good.
Yep. I kind of feel that for somebody listening. Again, just one of those things. I feel like there's somebody who has for a long time desired that specific gift of seeing in the Spirit. But I felt like I saw the Lord give this person a pair of goggles, like you would go swimming with. It was almost like you will see clearly, and you'll be able to, as simple as like you have goggles on and you just stick your face in the water and then you can see everything under the water. I feel like he's giving somebody like a pair of goggles that you'll be able to see it.
That's good.
As soon as
somebody
you said
who's contended with it, you know.
As soon as you said that, my whole hand tingled and it got super hot. My left hand, like instantly, like out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that's actually like the covenant. It's like it's in the covenant relationship with the Lord. That authority and that power, the sight is actually released is when you can.
Yeah.
You actually realize that you're in covenant with him. It's not a contract. It's not about what you do. It's not about how you do it. It's like, it's being in with him. Like if you just actually visualize, I think that's a key too. If you just visualize him, things just unlock because you're sitting with him.
Yeah. I don't know who told me. I think I know who told me the other day, but it was this, I think it was this pastor or speaker, whoever was using the comparison. It's like, you know, you have those 18 Crayola crowns in that little package, and it's just like, no, you have the full blown 64 pack with a pencil, the crayon sharpener in the back.
Yeah,
you know, but to believe that, but to not to believe that I only have this and this is for everyone. It's like, no, it's for everyone to believe. You know, you're actually equipped with all of the colors that you need. So
yeah, dude. It's so good.
I feel to share a story. It's like just keeps coming to me. So, I went through a time when I was learning to hear the voice of the Lord, where I felt like I could hear so clearly for other people, like if we were on prophetic teams or whatever. But for myself, I felt like it was just static, like I wouldn't get anywhere, couldn't get anything, right? And I went through a whole year. We have this game, for like practicing the prophetic that we do called Fishbowl. Is that what we call it? And basically we like, how does it work again? We pull a name, but we don't look at the name. So we pull this name out of a bowl and it's folded up. And then we ask the Lord for a word for that person. And then we like write down our word or tell the word or whatever. And then we open it and read the name. Every time we did it, I pulled my own name like several times in the same year. Yeah. And at first I was really bummed because I'm like, I want to get a real word kind of a thing, which is so silly. But also multiple times my word was about a rainbow and about like all the colors. Yeah. And so he took me through this period of like learning how, like for me, when I hear a word for myself, it's easier for me if I'm writing than if I'm just trying to visualize something the way I do for other people. It's because I have all my memories already. So for me, I have to get it out a different way. But it was so cool for him to love me and care about me and meet me where I'm at so much that he even took the time to teach me in those ways that I can hear his voice for myself also and met that need. And now I'm like, okay, like, why am I doubting that I can hear him for myself also? Because he taught me that. I had that realization a couple months ago. Gosh. Like, why would I doubt that? He taught me for a year.
It's almost like that should be the starting point, too.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you say about me? Gosh.
Well, we had that exercise, you remember? A couple of weeks ago on the podcast. Like starting with that.
Yeah.
But literally just asking... Asking the Lord, what do you think about me?
Yeah. Well, that's come up a lot too. Recently, like yesterday, I had somebody tell me that I was favored and told me that I could like almost like claim that over myself.
Yeah.
You can like people can claim the good things about them, the nature of the Lord. You can affirm those things in yourself confidently.
So good.
Like, yeah, I do care about people. Like, you can wear that. Just because you say something good about yourself doesn't mean it's arrogance or pride. That's a tough one, too. You talk about peeing in the swimming pool. That's the way you do it. Say something good about yourself is what it feels like.
Especially out loud to people.
I know. Oh, yeah. Because then it's like, well, they're going to think I'm.
Oh, yeah.
But if it's true, it's true.
Mm.
And I've had friends like recently say good things about themselves, and it just felt like you just broke reality by saying that. You just ushered in some new form of like something good.
Yeah.
Real authority or power. You just brought something new in.
Mm.
Anyways.
That's a good practice.
Yeah. It's a tough one.
Go to 3 friends this week and say things you like about yourself. 3 good things about you.
I can do that.
Just kidding.
You're my 3 friends.
For real.
Tough one, yeah.
Man, this is so fun.
It's fun.
Yeah. Appreciate you bringing us on.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You got anything else, Tyler?
Live long and prosper. Yes.
It's good.
I like it.
Amen and amen.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Yeah. If you enjoyed this episode of the Ancient Way podcast, drop us a like, share with your friends, share with your family. And if you'd like to support us and what we are doing, and you would like to play a direct role in our growth and the things that we do in the future,
we have a donation spot at the bottom of our show notes. So you can click on that, give however much you want. We appreciate absolutely everything. We appreciate our listeners. And everybody that's already come alongside and encouraged us, and even everybody that's been on our show. So thanks, guys.